student just passes the test and they're allowed to go to the next grade and they don't do any tutoring. So I think there's too many tests and not enough teaching.
We had
my opinion.
No. It's a good opinion. A few years ago, we had a lady on the air. Many of you probably know her, Phyllis Schlafly. Am I saying her name right?
Yep.
And we had a couple of interviews with her. Did she come into the studio? I'm trying to remember. I know we had her on the air.
I can't remember if she's...
But anyway, one of her points was that we are teaching to the test. It was, I think her writing was the first time I ever was exposed to somebody expressing the disapproval of the notion of teaching to the test. In other words, we know what the test is going to ask, so here are the questions and the answers, and I'll keep drilling them into you kids until the day of the test, and then the day of the test, you're going to do really well, and then the day after the test, you're probably not going to remember much of it.
Yeah.
As opposed to teaching critical thinking, as opposed to teaching the analytical approach to things, or the bigger understanding of a story, if it happens to be in literature, a literature test or something like that.
To make you curious.
I think I remember. I remember as a kid not understanding in math the carryover thing. Like you have 15 plus 15. Well, you add the two fives, and you have a 10. Mm-hmm. And I remember putting it below the line rather than putting the 1 into the tens column. Mm-hmm. And my answers were horrendously wrong. Horrendously wrong. Uh-huh. And the teacher noticed what I was doing. And the teacher said, oh, I see what you're doing. That 1 doesn't go there. The 1 goes up here. Mm-hmm. Boom. For the rest of my life, I never got it wrong again.
Yeah.
And the test helped me to learn. Mm-hmm. So but again, in that circumstance, I'm speaking from naivete, is that the word? And ignorance, because I'm guessing that the tests that these teachers are opposed to are the mandated tests.
Yeah.
The test that this teacher probably gave me in second grade or first grade, whatever grade I'm remembering, mm-hmm. was probably a teacher-given test just to see if the kids understand.
Exactly.
Exactly. So I don't really know. I know that they're going to be talking about it this afternoon, if you're interested. But anyway, I wanted to read to you some of the opinions on this. I do have an article from the Christian Science Monitor about this very subject. Gosh,
that was a good illustration you had.
It was a good.
The best illustration.
It was a good illustration, but see, math, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't require as much analytical thinking as biology and astronomy, and
Yeah.
I mean, math it's fast. I mean, here's the numbers; they go here.
Yeah, and you can do it in your head.
I mean, it's pretty much a set thing. Well, yeah, I don't understand that either.
Stupid math.
But anyway, all right, so let's talk about this. I'd love to hear your opinion. If you're a teacher, please call in. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Some sun followed by clouds today. Breezy, warm and humid with a high of 85 to 89. Look for a shower and heavy thunderstorm mainly during the afternoon hours. Tonight, mostly cloudy, warm and humid with a shower and thunderstorm around low 70 to 74. Tomorrow, a mix of clouds and sunshine with a brief shower or two, the high in the upper 70s to the mid-80s. Thursday, mostly sunny and pleasant, high 78 to 82. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
Hi, Danny Warfel here. Get moving with Florida Credit Union's fast and easy loan approval process.
Let Florida Credit Union start up a new car loan for you today. No more waiting, hassles, or stop signs. You can even apply online. With a strong financial team behind you, you can enjoy great rates and fast approvals.
It's all about personalized service and a streamlined process.
Florida Credit Union, connecting your money to your life.
News Talk 1370, WOCA invites you to discover your full business potential. News Talk Radio is the perfect environment for your advertising. WOCA's News Talk format pinpoints information-hungry, better educated, high-income adults, so use us to talk to them. Call 732-8000. 732-8000. We're Ocala News Talk Radio. News Talk 1370, WOCA.
Hey, I'm Gary.
And I'm Eric. Did you know that Red Eye Radio is on WOCA The Source every night from 2 to 6 a.m. and it's live?
That's right. No tape shows here.
We know that the news doesn't sleep.
And neither do we. So we're here with you live from 2 till 6 a.m. every weekday. Call us 866-90-RED-EYE. So join me, Gary McNamara,
And me, Eric Harley, every weeknight to discuss the latest in news and entertainment.
right here on WOCA The Source.
Hey, Matt, I know Sunrise Automotive does auto stuff, but I need some tires for my truck. Can you recommend someone?
Yes, I can. We do that.
No, I mean, I need them installed and balanced and all that.
Yep, we do that.
Well, my son needed his windows tinted.
Yep, we do that.
I need my
too.
seat replaced.
Yep, we do that too.
I need a new roof line, and a new spoiler, and a new
Yep,
trunk.
we can even do that too.
Okay, I get it. I suppose you can also do a radio show too, huh?
Well, as a matter of fact, join me every Monday at 10 for auto repair with personal care here on The Source.
Of course you do.
Good credits, bad credits. It's none of our business because we're not an auto dealer. We're not a bank. We're not your mother. We're OcalaForSale.com. Marion County's marketplace for cars, trucks, and SUVs. We've got thousands of sellers standing by to take your call. No middleman. But hurry, don't walk, don't run. Just sit down and log on to OcalaForSale.com. Prices and inventory change daily. Offer does not include dealer upcharge. Undercutting, rust proofing, factory surcharge, or delivery fee. See website for details.
All right, 12 minutes before 8 o'clock. Nice looking Tuesday morning. A little bit cloudy. By the way, 71 degrees here at The Source, WOCA, broadcasting live from the Paddock Mall just outside the WOCA commissary. And some cooler temperatures moving in just slightly. Slightly. 80s and 84s and that kind of high temperatures for, I think they said Thursday and Friday is when we'll see those temperatures. And maybe 60s at night.
Oh, okay.
A little bit of rain tomorrow, ushering in that cold or cool weather. Mm-hmm. Anyway, all right. So we were discussing before the break whether there is too much standardized testing in the classroom. I am not a teacher. I haven't been in a classroom in a long, long time, even as a parent of a child in school. My son is 28, so obviously it's been a while since I've been in his classroom. So I am speaking from ignorance and naivete. So I would love to hear from you. My thoughts are that if I can have a thought, and you can excuse me for speaking out of naivete, my thoughts are that testing is you probably never do too much testing, but maybe it's standardized testing that is being really argued here. By standardized, I mean mandated by the state, and perhaps to such extreme that it's held with such importance that the teachers have no choice but to teach to the test. So there's before I read you from the Christian Science Monitor, I go to a website now and then that you might find interesting if you enjoy debate. The website is called debate.org. Mm-hmm. And whenever there's something that I think might be interesting to debate, I want to see what other people have said on debate.org. The question they posed was simply, is there too much standardized testing? To my amazement or whatever, surprise, only 3 people responded. So one person said no, there's not too much standardized testing. 2 people said yes. The person who said no said there is never enough testing. Testing is a way to keep yourself in check with how well you are doing at that point in time. It will let you know what points you need to work on and what points you don't need to strengthen as much. Having so many tests also provides you with the focus that you need to work hard to achieve success, and that is a good value to have for the future. That person, whoever it is, makes sense to me, but maybe just like me, speaking out of naivete or out of ignorance, because he or she, I think, is referring to tests that a teacher gives to the kids and not that the state mandates the teacher give.
Yeah.
Something that holds a whole lot of importance. I think that's the massive testing that is being argued today or rallied against. Mm-hmm. Somebody who says, yes, there is too much, says this, there is too much standardized testing. So this person is using the word standardized, whereas the person who said no did not. The person who said yes said there is too much standardized testing. When you constantly hold a child to a certain standard its whole life, you are setting the child up for failure. All their focus goes on meeting a standard, and that will carry itself through their whole life. Their future will be defined by standards.
Oh, yeah.
Although I don't know that I agree with that. See, I don't know. See,
No, I grew up and I had There was a young man that grew up with me, and his folks were, holding him up to different standards and everything. And by the time he was 23, he had a nervous breakdown. And I mean, he wasn't allowed to be himself. And they
but if you
pushed
think
here, there, and everywhere, and it was too much.
But you were held up to standards too. I mean, we all were.
Yeah.
I mean, all of our parents kind of expected certain things from us and certain behavior to not be tolerated. So.
Yeah, but we learned from that. We were taught that.
All right, I have the Christian Science Monitor article, but I'd really rather hear from our listeners. And the phone number is 622-9622. We do have somebody waiting patiently. Thank you for calling. Good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Larry. I guess all the teachers are on their way to class, so
probably,
I'll chime in with a quick opinion. I would love to hear what some teachers think about this, but I also think maybe they might be a little gun shy about calling in because they don't want to put their job at risk. So I can certainly understand that.
Yep.
There's way too much standardized testing, and I think standardized testing removes some of the elements of education that enrich the educational experience. You don't have time to talk about art or great literature or politics or anything else that we used to talk about when we had different classes, because the teachers are so worried about cramming this standardized testing material down the students. So I definitely agree with that. But if I remember correctly, these standardized tests were implemented to measure the progress the students were making, because the educational system was not producing kids that were really educated. Do you remember that was 10 years ago?
Yes.
No Child Left Behind or whatever it was?
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is that the state said the schools aren't doing well, therefore we need to step in and do what we do.
I think that was the impetus behind it, if I remember correctly. That seems to be the sequence of events. And I mean, I had some great teachers when I was in school that inspired me, and I still love to learn. I'm still a student, really. Just not in college anymore, but there are some bad teachers and some teachers that don't perform well, and I think the standardized test was implemented to try to kind of measure how what the teachers were doing, how good a job they were doing. And in any group there's going to be some that that are below average, and I think the reason that the teachers union is getting upset about it is because they're afraid that some teachers might lose their jobs if they're discovered to be in that poor performing group. So it's a little bit more complicated than just the testing issue. But I know other people want to talk, but I definitely think the standardized testing takes away some of the facets of the education that really does make it a wonderful experience. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you, Pete. Yeah, again, going back to, the subjects are so different, again, I can't express this enough that I truly believe that I'm speaking from a position of ignorance, but at the same time, my opinions are mine, and I'm inviting listeners to call in and express yours. But my thought is that if it's math, you either know how to do the equation or not. You either know the formula or not.
Yeah, exactly.
And that, to me, a test would right away nip it in the bud. You would say, oh, I get it, you don't get it.
Exactly.
And here's what I see you don't get. So let me explain to you what you didn't get. That's easier, I think. Now, a lot of people disagree, and I'm not a math whiz. Please. But I understand the idea that there's a formula in math that is always going to apply.
Yeah.
Whereas a formula in literature, there is probably no such thing. I mean, in literature, you have to understand what's being expressed, and it's more subjective or artsy or whatever you want to call it.
And you learn appreciation that way.
Well, and you also learn discussion. I think if you're standardizing a test on math, then maybe that makes sense to me. If you're standardizing a test on literature, not the English language, I don't mean grammar and
that's different.
What do you call the thing? Diagramming sentences and all that stuff.
English and literature.
But I mean actually understanding what's a piece of literature is about, what a book is saying. A standardized test might simply ask, who wrote the book or when was the book published and that kind of stuff, and that doesn't stimulate anything.
No, you need comprehension skills.
The better discussion is not as concrete as a math discussion would be. The discussion would be was the protagonist behaving with an ulterior motive or something like that. I'm trying to generalize a statement about literature. And in social studies, it's kind of a mix between the math and the literature thinking that I have. Because in social studies, you do have specific dates, specific names, right?
Yeah.
But you might be able to argue motives. You might be able to discuss, why a certain historical figure did what he or she did.
Exactly.
You might be able to discuss whether that behavior would be acceptable today. Or if we as a human species learned anything from that event in history. And if we have done whatever we need to do to prevent it from happening again in the case of a war or a Holocaust type of an event.
Sure.
So that's kind of a mixture. Social studies is a mixture of the hardcore fact and the more elusive discussions that might take place in the classroom. And again, if that is a standardized test, how do you test that? How do you test that? And how do you even engage in that discussion if you're being bogged down with too many tests? I think that might be the problem that the teachers are expressing. Pete brought up the part about the pay, and I think that is part of it. But if we kind of set that aside, because that's going to muddy up our conversation, if we're just trying to figure out what's best for the children, if we're trying to figure out what's the best way to educate our children, I think, again, I'm not a teacher, so I'm really being ignorant here, I think, maybe, but I think certain subjects need to be standardized tests, maybe, like math. So I'm gritting my teeth and grimacing. What's the word, grimacing? Because I'm afraid someone's going to be yelling at me now. But I think if it's factual and concrete and there's really no debate about it, okay, standardized tests. Let's figure out who knows what and make sure they know it.
Yeah.
But the other subjects should be a little bit more open, I think, for discussion. I do have a phone call coming in. And good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, it's me, Tom.
Yeah.
If they're using tests just to determine if they're using tests and as a means to sell like a syllabus or something, then it's wrong. I mean, a teacher should be able to set up the goals they should set up. I mean, the school systems themselves should set up certain goals for each level of grade, for each class that's has to be taught and stuff. And of course they have to have tests to evaluate the kids to see where they're at, where each kid is at, then determine which kid needs more help than the next, or less help, or whatever the case may be. But this system that they're using right now, but they're going to a different system, so I don't know what the new system is going to be like. But the FCAT, it didn't.
Tom, we got to
prove anything.
Yeah, we got to run. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Fox News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. A United Nations medical worker infected with Ebola in Liberia has died at a hospital in Germany. Fox's Casey Stiegel on a nurse infected in Dallas.
Nina Pham is her name. We're told she is stable right now at the hospital where she is employed. Still unclear from health officials this morning on just how she contracted the disease despite wearing personal protective equipment like gloves and gowns while she was treating Thomas Duncan.
He died last week. An American Airlines flight to Dallas turned back for an emergency landing in San Francisco after wall panels came loose in the cabin.
It ripped apart all the way from the floor to the ceiling on the right side, and then all the way around to the left side of the airplane on both sides, just in front of the wing.
James Wilson was on board. An airline spokesman says this could have been a blown air duct. The cabin never lost pressure. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Fox
News Early Prime, breaking down business news and its impact on your bottom line. Your World with Neil Cavuto.
That's how I do business. That's why I am business.
Bold positions and brash opinions on the topics America is buzzing about. The Five.
How do you think this will set in with the American people?
This will be the pulse of the nation. Washington insight and political know-how from the best in the Beltway. Special report with Brett Baird.
The epicenter of the political world is here.
The number one place for fair and balanced coverage. Fox News Channel.
What's wrong with working hard to make our lives and our kids' lives better? Nothing. At Fox Business, we don't have a problem with success. We have a very big problem with those who get in the way of it. We don't come out of the box bashing those who make money, just the politicians stealing it and the bureaucracies wasting it. We're not just sitting behind a desk. We're out in the field, on the floor, with the folks. Because when a story moves forward, so do we.
Fox Business, the power to prosper. Check your local listings.
Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
Alice?
Yes, George?
I'm royalty at Devon Self-Storage now on Highway 200 across from Hobby Lobby. It says so right here in this letter.
George, I read that letter too, and it's Devon's loyalty rewards. Pay 3 months in advance, get 5% off. Pay 6 months in advance, get 7% off. Pay 12 months in advance and get 10% off.
See, Alice, Devon Self-Storage treats me like royalty. Just call them at 873-0777.
Yes, George, yes.
Look who just walked in the room. Joel Wiesner from What's Up Ocala. Hey, Joel, I'm looking for something to do this weekend. You got any ideas?
Absolutely. Check out our event calendar online at www.whatsupocala.com, and there is plenty of events there for you. Daily news updates to event reviews and magazine articles.
Really?
We've organized it all in one place online for you to cut through all of the hassle of finding something to do this weekend. We have a daily event calendar, a bi-monthly magazine, and we also do daily news articles.
All right, Joel, that's perfect. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Whatsupocala.com.
Dan, did you know that the runway at Ocala's airport is nearly 8,000 feet long?
Why, no, Brad. I did not. Please, tell me more about said runway.
Seriously, it's a big airport.
Yeah, I kind of knew that. So what's your point?
Well, just that most people don't even realize there's an airport, much less one that's big enough for Air Force One to land.
And
that Ocala Aviation is based at Ocala International Airport.
So why are you telling me?
So that you can help me get the word out that Ocala Aviation has a fleet of airplanes, and it's here for them to learn to fly.
And how do you propose we get said message across to so many people at once?
We should put an ad on a good radio station. But yours will do.
Very funny. Well, what do you want to say?
That we offer private, instrument, and even commercial training. All right here in Ocala. They don't even have to go anywhere else. They can do it all right here.
Nope, never work.
Well, then give them the number to call with any questions.
I can't even remember your number.
Yes, you do. 861-7484. How hard is that?
Okay, I'll call you next week and we'll get it started.
Can you remember the number this time?
Yes, 861-7484.
Good boy.
Get it for less at the DIY Home Center outlet. Get top quality real wood cabinets the same or less than the big box stores are selling the cheap stuff. And that's not all. Drywall screws big box stores are $6.47 a pound. At DIY, only $4.99. Plus, DIY has the largest selection of mobile home parts and accessories anywhere. From carpet to doors, get the DIY supplies you need for less. The DIY Home Center outlet. We are your building material closeout store. 2191 Northwest 10th Street, just 2 miles east of I-75.
Thank you, Bob. 5 minutes after 8 o'clock. Nice looking Tuesday morning. The temperature right now is 71 degrees here at the Source, WOCA, broadcasting live from the Paddock Mall just outside the WOCA commissary.
Yep. I like
Galen Unol's on the phone from Life South, and before we went to the news and everything, I had to cut my brother off. He was the last caller in the last segment. I always hate cutting people off, especially my brother. But
yeah,
you're up against the clock, and so Galen expressed during off the air that he had things to say about this topic too. So I said, well, you know what? If you want, I'll set aside I had a funny topic to share with Galen, but maybe we'll just continue this conversation. I want to hear what Galen has to say. He's raising 2 boys that are in school, so he's kind of more in touch with it than I am. And at the same time, we'll also, because some calls came in during the news. Actually, I didn't answer them, but I guess we'll just continue what we were talking about. It's a pretty serious topic, and I think we all should have a say because ultimately we all are the ones who vote for the school board.
Yeah.
And to me, it's about the kids. I know that there's teacher pay part of this discussion, but I'd rather focus on what's best for the kids, I think. But of course, Galen is also on to remind us of the importance of donating blood. And Galen represents Life South, as you know. And this segment is sponsored by Penn Flooring, so be sure to thank those people. They provide quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years, not to mention the beautiful flooring that they have. They can actually make you a throw rug from another carpet that you have.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. I love that creativity.
Stop in and visit the spacious showroom at 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge, or just on this side of the bridge, depending on where you are. We use Penn Flooring here at WOCA, so should you. And tell them you heard about it on WOCA. All right, good morning, Galen. How you doing?
Hey, good morning, Larry. Robin, how are y'all?
Pretty good. Where are you right now?
Just got to Gainesville.
All right, so you have two boys in school, and do you go to many of the school parent-teacher things?
I used to in the past, but they're just hard with baseball and me traveling and everything else.
Yeah.
It's hard to get to those things. The PTO meetings, yeah.
Okay.
And most of the PTO meetings are about how they can raise money for the school so they can, do different programs outside of the standardized programs.
Yeah. So there's a rally tonight outside of the school district office downtown. The school board meeting is at 5:30, so they're going to rally at 4:30. And the whole thing is, they're not saying. It sounds like what they want is for parents to be able to opt out of some of these standardized tests. It sounds like a parent would have the choice of to either allow to, I don't know. See, how would that put one student against the other, though? I mean, if all the students aren't taking the same tests, how do you know? So what are your thoughts on this? Because we have thoughts, Robin and I, we've expressed them, so we don't need to repeat ourselves. But just to repeat this part, neither one of us have children in school right now.
This is where I fall because invariably when you get a group of parents around, no matter what they're doing, that are all the same age, that standardized testing becomes a topic within the first 10 minutes when you're talking about your kids and their education. And what I always go back to is we have to have a way to gauge what the children are learning. And more importantly, you have to be able to gauge that across a wide spectrum. I'm not necessarily the national core curriculum fan, but I do believe that every child in the state of Florida should be receiving an education that is very, very close. And if you go back historically, that should be an equal education, right? The kids in, let's say, Miami Hialeah should not be getting a different level of curriculum than, say, the kids in Lake City, Florida, or in Tallahassee, or in Ocala. And in order to do that, you have to have standardized testing. And that's where I always fall back to, because let's be honest, we're a society that moves around. And so if my child moves from, let's say, from Ocala to Gainesville, for example, they should be able to pick right up and be able to say, you know what, because I'm taking this standardized testing, I'm on the same grade level academically as my peers, even if I move. And I think that's very, very important. And the only way to do that is to create that baseline of standardized testing.
Now, do you know, and this is a question I really don't know the answer to, does the standardized testing only test the subjects that truly are mobile subjects, like math? You'll use math everywhere. English, you'll use it everywhere. Social studies, you will use that everywhere.
Well,
but agriculture
isn't really on there. It's math, reading, and English or writing. Those are the three. Those are the big things that standardized testing do.
Really?
There are some different levels where you have to take a final that may be on the district level that you have to take in order to pass or to gain credit. But as far as standardized testing, which we're talking about,
right?
Like the FCAT, which they can't call.
So they don't test the kids on their understanding of history?
No. Not on a statewide standardized test. But there are district testing and there are some states, but it's not a requirement in order to go on to the next grade level the way the FCAT was.
Wow.
Gosh,
does that bother you? I mean, I'm sure your children are learning history from you, but I mean, isn't that important to know where we came from?
And of course it is. But what we're talking about is, and this is where everybody gets it all confused. We're talking about the standardized testing, right? In social studies, as you said, that's where you have more of a discussion. You learn different things. I mean, when we grew up, we were told that Christopher Columbus discovered the United States. And now we know, well, that's not kind of true. I guess he did for the Europeans, but right. And so there's some of that. Political nature of history.
In defense of that specific statement, which we don't want to dwell on that statement, but I don't remember learning that. I remember learning that he landed in some of the islands and didn't really set foot here.
Indies, yeah.
And of course, it was never made clear until I was an adult about the genocide that was committed by. But anyway, so since we opened this up, the phone lines have been ringing. So if you don't mind, we'll kind of make this a three-way conversation between us, you, and our listeners. So let's go to one of the calls. And everybody's you're invited. We decided to extend the conversation through the segment with Galen Unold. Good morning. You're on the air. Thank you for calling and for waiting.
Hey, good morning. It's Mike McCoy.
Hey, Mike.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Well, you guys always open some stimulating conversation, and I appreciate that, and thank you for it. Galen made a good point there just a moment ago about about the point of Columbus discovering America, and I think there's probably a few American Indians in this country that probably disagree with it.
Right.
They've only been here like a billion years before Columbus, and actually there was an Irishman named Brian who was here at this continent long before Columbus. But anyways,
that explains a lot.
Question for you. Thank you for that. A quick question. How do we know where we stand as far as our academic achievements, as far as our level of education, our standard as far as reading and math and so on and so forth? How do we know? Where do we get the statistics from? From testing. It comes from testing. Nothing that there's nothing that isn't gauged or measured that grows. If you don't measure something and set a standard, then how are you going to know what the achievements are? And there's that's where I like to think that we are a nation of I think the mollycoddling is maybe that's the word I'm looking for. We all want our children to be that exceptional student. Well, that's never ever going to happen, because if everybody is we are every child and every student is exceptional in their own way, and I believe that in certain ways every single person is exceptional in something. And so that's what I'm trying to say is we must have standardized testing. We have to have something to gauge our achievements by.
Using your statement that everybody's exceptional and understanding that you can actually become more exceptional with a good teacher, do you think the tests are really more about the teaching than about the learning?
Well, I think it's hand in hand, to be honest with you. I mean, how could you, and what is a really sad thing in this country is the fact that, we have, we have football players and basketball players making 1,000%, thousands of times more money than our police officers and our school teachers. And so we have to come up, we have to bring things into perspective and put them into the right priority. Unfortunately, people are more concerned about their favorite basketball and baseball or football star than they are about the welfare of their children and the quality of our teachers
Yeah, that might be true. All right, thank you, Mike. I appreciate your thoughts on that. The phone line is open if you want to call in, 622-9622. Galen Nundold on with us, talking about this. He's the only one of the three of us that has a child in school right now, 2 children, 2 boys. And so going back to your statement, Galen, that the standardized tests only test math and reading and writing, math, reading, and writing. I guess I understand that. I mean, if that's all it is, then that's kind of a factual, hardcore thing. And so, are you opposed to the amount of testing that those subjects get, or no, or you're against it?
Oh no, I believe in it. And again, you have to have a measuring stick.
Yeah.
And because, for example, if you don't know, all the time, my kids, I think I did great on that test. I know this inside and out. And then they get the test back, and it's like, well, I guess I didn't know it as well as I thought I did.
Right.
I think that's a big part of it. And you no matter what you do, right? Let's talk music, right? So you believe you're a great artist, you're a great musician, but you don't know that until you play maybe in front of a group of individuals and have a concert. Or if you're an actor, you don't know how good of an actor you are until you do it up on stage in front of a crowd.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that a test?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're bringing something else to the discussion, which is competition. Musicians are similar to athletes in this way. You may think you're great if you're sitting in a room all by yourself, pumping iron or playing a guitar, but until you're playing with somebody else, you don't realize that, oh my goodness, I'm really not as good as somebody else may be, and that makes you better too. Let's take another phone call. Good morning. What do you think?
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Good.
Listen, I'm listening to the conversation, and quite frankly, I'm involved in, my child goes to the schools here in Marion County, here in Ocala.
Uh-huh.
And even if you paid these teachers 1,000 times more, okay, even if their paycheck was $100,000 a week instead of $1,000 a week or $500 a week, you're going to have some very good teachers, and you're going to have some very bad teachers.
Good point.
The amount of money that you pay someone doesn't bring out a better outcome of that teacher. I'm on my way to a parent-teacher conference right now with a teacher that's just a bad teacher. My child gets hundreds on homework, but then tests poorly on the tests, and that's because of the teacher. So no matter what you pay them, if I give her a paycheck that's 1,000 times greater this week versus last week, she's not going to overnight become a better teacher.
And you just
because the paycheck's higher.
And you just made a point right there. Taking everything you said at your word, it sounds like the test really didn't show that the student is failing, but rather that the teacher is failing. In the example you gave.
Absolutely.
All right. So maybe the testing is not such a bad thing. All right. Thank you for the call. Appreciate that. And the phone lines are open. This is certainly a stimulating conversation. And I know there's a big meeting tonight, a rally tonight. Mm-hmm. There's going to be an opportunity for people to attend a workshop. I think they said October 23rd, where the school board will listen to what people have to say regarding the parents' opportunity to opt out if they want. I don't know how I feel about that. I think if the students are going to have tests, they should all get the tests. I can't imagine that.
And if it's to test the teacher, and the students, like the gentleman pointed out, fail the test, it's going to reflect on the student because that's going to affect their end of the year grade, and nothing's going to happen to the teacher.
And
that's the bad part.
Good points. Okay. And again, we're trying to speak intelligently about something, but only Galen, the last gentleman, and I don't know if Mike had any children in school, but I mean, really, we're not teachers either, so we're not in the classroom. The teachers I do know, by the way, are really so passionate about what they do.
You can tell, that they're good ones.
It's interesting. My kids have had great teachers, and my kids have had some bad teachers, and he is absolutely right. And when you have a bad teacher as a parent, it can be very difficult to deal with because you always want to side with your child. I mean, that's your child. He's the greatest human being, or she is the greatest human being on the planet. But in the back of your mind, you're like, well, you know what? This teacher's been doing it for a long time. And the key to all of this is that as a parent, you have to be involved. It's that triad that I talk about all the time. Is it has to be a part of the community. It has to be a part of the child itself. It has to be a part of the parent as well. And that community involves the school board and the teacher and everything else. You cannot, one side of that, if you only have one side, it does not work. You've got to have that group mentality.
Let me squeeze in another call again. Good morning. You're on the air. Thank you for calling.
Hi, Larry, and everybody. It's Lauren.
Hey, Lauren.
So many variables in all these things, but, the test itself, has anybody ever tried to take some of these questions? They're worded so peculiarly. They're so warped sometimes that, it really indicates that there's a problem possibly with the test itself. If a child is performing well in the classroom and on homework and on tests in the class, and then they take this test and there's such a discrepancy, well, then maybe the test needs to be looked at. But, yeah, we can't totally do away with the testing, but the tests are very problematic. So I'll hang up and listen.
No, that's an interesting.
I want to comment on that.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. Yeah, she's making a good point. I haven't seen them myself, but I heard Glenn Beck reading some of them. They sounded crazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing. Yes, I've taken some of the questions because you have that opportunity. It's actually online. You can do it anytime you want, and the test itself is constantly reviewed. And if they find that there's one question where a certain percentage everybody missed, they actually throw it away. That test is refined on a continual basis. And again, the purpose of the test is to find out, one, what the child knows, and secondly, they want to make sure that they're thinking about the process in the right way. And that's especially true with reading comprehension. So you read some of the questions, it's like, wow, what are they actually asking? And they're trying to find out if the child's comprehension is up to speed, and that's so vital. That's why reading is such a big part of this.
The questions that I believe Lauren was trying to talk about were the ones that have like a propaganda-ish content to the question itself. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I can't think of an example, but I remember Glenn Beck was giving some examples. I don't think, we drifted a little bit by bringing that up. It's an important part of this, just as, talking about the pay is an important part of this. But I think the question that the teachers union and the teachers are going to be trying to express this afternoon at 4:30 outside the school board building is about the number of tests and how it detracts from or takes away from a teacher's ability to teach. When they say opt out, I wonder if they mean the teachers can opt out of the tests.
I hope it's not the teachers. Again, you have to have a baseline of study. We're always talking about when you hear about this teacher that's going out on their own and teaching about a subject that you don't want your child to be talked about, right? Whether that usually involves religion, let's be honest. But if we can all agree that these are the core things that we need covered, then that's going to help. If we're going to, one of the reasons why we've gotten so far behind the rest of the world in education is it because we went away and we drifted away from the core of that education, right? Which is reading, writing, and arithmetic. And that's what we're trying to go back to. That's coming at a cost, of course, because of now people are clamoring that we need more art and we need more music or physical fitness or something else. But, if we're talking about preparing these kids to compete in an area in which we're falling behind, which is technology and development and everything else, then we have to have that standardized and we have to have that baseline knowledge. It has to be increased.
I went online to look for a propaganda question from Common Core.
I'm sure you'll find them. Yeah.
It's really rather long to read the whole thing on the air, but I see what the ladies talk about. A lady in Utah said her third grade little girl was out sick for 1 week. Her teacher asked if she could complete the test online, so the parent was able to see the question, and she said it's pure brainwashing. Gosh, should I read it?
I believe that. The Common Core is
all right, here's what the question is. I'll just go ahead and read it.
Okay.
I got
Go ahead.
4 minutes or so. Here's the what they have to read, and then they answer questions based on this. Are you ready? A rich merchant named Chen had all the money he needed. He lived in perfect comfort. His food was rich, his bed was soft, and his clothing was beautiful. A poor potter named Lee lived next door. He did not have much money. He ate simple food. He slept on the floor, and he wore old, plain clothes. His only treasure was a golden canary that lived in a wooden cage. The merchant worked day and night. He hunched over his account books, adding and subtracting. He yelled at his clerks and made them work as hard as he did. He rarely stopped work to eat a real meal. He ate at his desk and hardly noticed the delicious food. Late at night, the tired man went to bed, but he was unable to sleep. Thinking about money, he tossed and turned in his soft bed. His neighbor spent the day making pots from clay. At the end of the day, Lee sat at his garden and enjoyed a simple supper. Then he brought his canary outside. Lee played his flute while the canary sang. At night, Lee slept soundly on his floor. For years, the music from the garden had disturbed the merchant. It made him angry. One sleepless night, he came up with a plan to make the music stop. The next afternoon, he visited his neighbor. He held out a sack of gold coins and gave it to Lee. Chen said, "You have been a good neighbor for many years. Here is a gift for you." Lee thanked Chen. Then he sat in his garden thinking about the money. Should he hide it? Should he spend it? The poor canary cried for its owner, but Lee was lost in his thoughts. He forgot about his supper. He forgot about his flute. He thought all night long. Chen grinned happily at the success of his plan. He knew that having money would destroy Lee's simple pleasures. Lee made no more pots. He did not eat nor play the flute. He just worried about the money all day. He worried throughout the long, sleepless night. The next morning, his canary took pity on him. "Money means worries," she sang. "Give it back, give it back." Lee heard the canary's song. He remembered how happy he had been before the money arrived. He picked up the bag of coins and went next door. And then there's a series of questions based on what was just read. The lady who complained about that short story says, and I would love to hear your thoughts, that was brainwashing. That was a way to persuade children to view success and making money as evil. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that one. And I'm not saying that there isn't some of that. I mean, and again, it goes back to who is driving the educational system and behind it, and what is all that. I agree with that 100%.
So that's one of the test questions.
Well, no, that's one of the sample excerpts. And again...
Well, that was the test that the girl was sick. She had to take it online, she said.
Okay. Well, there you go. And that's in Utah, and I'm just not familiar. I mean, but... Well, whenever you have a question, and this is where we get lost in the weeds, right? Whenever you have a question that's like that, one, is it right? No, I'm not. I can't defend that. I'm not here to defend that. But what happens is we lose the argument based on that one question instead of what we're trying to accomplish.
that is really fair. Yeah, we'll have to end it with that, Galen. Wow, what a great conversation. Where's the Bloodmobile today?
Bloodmobile today, Larry, is at the Winn-Dixie out in the forest, actually. So,
okay.
Donate blood. Go to Life South on the Boulevard in Denellen or the Bloodmobile. Galen, thank you so much. Have a great day.
You guys are the best. Bye, all.
Fox News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. A United Nations medical worker infected with Ebola in Liberia has died at a hospital in Germany. Fox's Casey Stiegel on a nurse infected in Dallas.
Nina Pham is her name. We're told she is stable right now at the hospital where she is employed. Still unclear from health officials this morning on just how she contracted the disease despite wearing personal protective equipment like gloves and gowns while she was treating Thomas Duncan.
He died last week. An American airline